Happy Friday to one and to all. I'm back again, although I didn't really go anywhere. I've just stayed here. It's still Tuesday where I am in the space-time continuum. Anyways, today I wanted to talk a little bit about movies because I am somewhat of a fanatic when it comes to a specific genre. Please excuse my occasional chewing. I'm still eating dinner. I mean, potato chips and dip, but that's my dinner and it's stuck in my teeth. So I'm probably gonna be chewing and fiddling with my teeth every once in a while, so please just excuse that. Anywho, this one genre that I'm talking about is horror movies. And I really want to explore my love for horror movies more in the future. But those are videos that I really want to put a lot of time and effort into, and I don't have the time for that large of a commitment right now with school being what it is. But yeah, I definitely intend to take a path in that direction going forward. But right now, I wanted to talk about something that really irritates me when it comes to horror movies. This is something that I've seen in a few different movies, and every time I see it, it irritates me so bad. And this is when the writers or directors of the movie or whatever, when it's obvious that they put a lot of time and effort into thinking of the perfect antagonist, the perfect movie monster for this movie. They put a lot of time and effort into him, and then he gets a whole 30 seconds of screen time and then ends up just disappearing for the rest of the movie again. And it's intended to be done for the scare factor and the mysteriousness of the monster or whatever, but all it really turns into is just being this perfect waste of a good character, a good monster, something that would have been iconic if it was used right, but unfortunately you botched it, and so it's going to be like a byline in horror movie history. Now, I wanted to bring up a couple of different examples of movies where I've seen this being the case. And I'm going to kind of go in increasing order of severity, in my opinion. Um, the first one I wanted to bring up is Sinister and its sequel, Sinister 2. These were a horror movie series that came out in the early 2010s. Their main antagonist in this series is this demon known as Bughuul, and he's apparently this child-eating demon from Sumeria, or the ancient Middle Eastern countries and stuff. Um, and he's behind all this death and tragedy at these different houses where there appear to be linked crimes, but the main character can't find anything to prove his point. Yes, I know I'm wearing a different shirt in this clip, and it's just because when I was watching back the clips that I recorded last night, I realized that I missed a pretty significant explanation point, and that is that the point that the main character was trying to prove was that these crimes were linked. And when he was trying to do this, Bughuul comes into play because it's actually this demon that is the driving force behind these different crimes, and he's the reason that these kids do these awful things to their families and then end up going missing. So he kind of unlocks this curse when he digs too deeply into this series of crimes and death. Now, this one isn't quite as awful as a few of the other movies that I'm gonna mention on this list as far as how bad it does this, but I think it still qualifies for a place because a couple of the only moments of meaningful screen time for this character, who I think is a very well crafted movie monster, um, are jump scares. And I absolutely hate jump scares. I think they're cheap. I think it takes no talent whatsoever to implement a jump scare into a horror film. But yeah, he's underused when it doesn't come to jump scares, and that just kind of irritates me because I feel like he could have been used for a lot more. I've got a few other movies on my list that I'd like to glance over quick. Um, The Blair Witch Project and The Babadook are two horror movies that kind of have a similar situation. They have a pretty good movie monster antagonist creature thing, um, but it's just underused. And then one other interesting one I wanted to touch on before I got to the one at the top of my list that I think is a glaring example of this issue, is The Witch, which came out in 2015. And the issue that I saw with this one was pretty similar to the issues with the other three movies that I've already mentioned. It had a good antagonist, which I thought was very unique in this particular instance. The main antagonist was the devil himself, and he was kind of introduced in a rather abstract way. I thought the issue here was that he was just underused, and I felt like they could have used him a lot more in the movie to like up the ante, up the creep factor in a lot of different places. This one, though, did not have any jump scares, and so I thought that that increased the value of the screen time of their person. It's just, again, he had very, very little meaningful screen time, and I felt like he was just very underused, especially proportional to the amount of effort that was put into the creation of this person. But the number one absolute worst, absolutely most egregious of all of these films, and I think of all time when it comes to underused horror movie monsters, is Insidious. Insidious is absolutely awful when it comes to this, at least the first one. They put this immense amount of effort into this amazingly creepy character, the lipstick face demon, as he's called in the credits, and they show him for I think like a whole 30 seconds of combined screen time. One of which is during a pseudo jump scare. It was basically a jump scare that wasn't very well executed, but that's beyond the point. I want to touch on Insidious in a later video because I feel like it's a horror movie franchise that at least deserves being talked about. But this is all that I'm going to mention this franchise for now. Just this absolute terrible, unforgivable misuse of an amazing prospective horror movie icon. I just think he's this amazingly creepy character that could have been used for so much more than he was. And it's just really infuriating to see these amazing ideas be kind of wasted when they're used improperly. And like obviously they can't be used for another horror movie series because then it'd just be a holdover and no one would want to watch it, but like it just feels like such a waste. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. I think there are a lot of very frustrating trends in recent horror movies. I just think this is one that is a little bit more frustrating than the rest of them because I just it feels so wasteful, at least with some of these other horror movies that are horrible. Like, they would have been horrible no matter what because the idea behind them just wasn't sound. But with these, it just seems like there was so much potential and it was just kind of wasted with the mismanagement of a potentially amazing horror movie creature. But anyways, I hope you liked this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.